Welcome back students to the video lecture series. I am Adil Mansoori from Civil Engineering Department of LG Institute of Engineering and Technology. So dear students, in the previous video we have discussed and solved numericals related to arithmetical increase method, geometrical increase method, incremental increase method, and also decrease in the rate of growth method. Okay, so let us now start with the next method. Okay, so the next method is graphical extension method. Okay, so you can see the graph is of population versus time, right? So in this method a curve is drawn between the population p and time t with the help of census data of previous few decades. Okay, that is, for example, here they have plotted the data of the years from 1911 till 1981, right? That is in 1911, 1921, 1931, 41, 51, 61 and 71, right? So now the shape of the population curve is obtained up to the present period, right? So for example, the present period is 1971. Okay, so we need to now find out the population in the year 1981 and 1991, right? So the curve is then carefully extended from the present to the future decades, right? So you can see the dotted line, right? You have data of the dark line, okay, and the data of the future, that is in 81 and 91, will be obtained by carefully extending the curve. Okay, so from the extended part of the curve, the population at the end of any future decade is approximately determined. Okay, clear students? So let us now move towards the next method, that is the graphical comparison method. Okay, so you can see the graph, it is also similar to the population versus time, right? So this method is variation of the previous method, right? Now this method assumes that the city under consideration will develop as similar cities developed in the past. Okay, so here you can see that the line showing A city is the city of our consideration, and city B, city C, city D and city E are already those cities which have grown. Okay, so the method consisting of plotting curves of the cities that one or more decades ago had reached the present population of the city under consideration, right? So thus, as shown in the figure, the population of city A under consideration is plotted up to 1970, right? So here you can see that, take it, the city A, B, C, D or E all have reached the population of say 62,000, right, in different years. For example, A has reached in 1970, then B has reached in 1930, C has reached in 1925, D has reached in 1935 and E has reached in 1920, right? So all these cities have reached the population of 62,000 in those respective years, right? So thus as shown in the figure, the population of city A under consideration is plotted up to 1970, at which the population is 62,000 in 1930, and its curve is plotted from 1930 onwards, right? So similar curves are plotted for the cities C, D and E, right, which reached the population of 62,000 in 1925, 1935 and 1920 respectively, right? So the curve of a city A can be then be continued, which is shown by dotted lines, allowing it to be influenced by the rate of growth of the larger cities. So in practice, however, it is difficult to find those identical cities right? But this is an approximate method. Clear, students? So let us now move towards the next method, that is the master plan method or zoning method. Okay, so big and metropolitan cities are generally not allowed to develop in haphazard and natural ways, right? But they are allowed to develop in a planned ways, right? So the expansion of such cities are regulated by laws of corporations and other local bodies. The master plan prepared for a city is generally such as to divide the city in various zones and thus to separate the residents, commercial buildings and industries from each other. Okay. So the population density are also fixed. Say for example, there may be 5 persons living in a residential plot and there are 5,000 such plots in one particular zone, right? So the total population of that particular zone will be 5 into 5,000, that is 25,000, right? Hence, when the development is regulated by such a scheme, it is very easy to access precisely the design population. Clear? So let us now have a look at another method, that is growth composition analysis. So the change in population of a city is usually due to three reasons, right? That is birth rate or death rate or the migration. So the population forecasting may be done by proper analysis of these three factors. The difference between birth rate and death rate gives the natural increase in population. Thus, we can say that Pn, right, will be equals to P plus natural increase plus migration, right? So if I talk about this method, then total population increase can be given as P, that is the current population, plus natural increase, that is either by birth or death, right? So there will be, you can say, natural decrease as well, right? And migration, that is people may migrate from village areas to the city areas in search of better prospects, right? So the estimated natural increase is usually given by this expression, that is natural increase will be equals to T into IBP minus IDP, right? That is T is the design period, P is the present population, IB is the average birth rate per year and ID is the average death rate per year. Okay. Okay students, so let us now start with the next topic, that is the location of the treatment plant. Okay, so there are various factors on which the selection of location of the treatment plant depends. Okay, so let us have a look at them one by one. So first one is the type of source, then location of plant with respect to raw water supply and service area, then topography, then area of availability of land, physical characteristics and other factors, right? So talking about the first one, that is the type of source, right? Selection depends upon the type of source, that is either groundwater or surface water. And for example, if groundwater is the source, then treatment plant can be located even in the center of the city, right? Then talking about the location of plant with respect to raw water supply and service area, then that location should be weighted carefully. If the treatment plant is near to the source of water, and then the cost of conveyance of raw water will reduce, and if the treatment plant is near to or within the city, then cost of distribution will be reduced, right? So also the availability of water head will be more. right? So both the alternatives should be carefully compared considering all the parameters. Okay, talking about the topography, then the topography of the source and the distribution area should be taken into consideration, right? Then in high urbanized area, the availability of land will affect the selection of location, right? Because in urbanized area, the land near to the city area is usually not available because of the exhaustion, right? Because of the development of the residential colonies or industrial areas. So it is quite difficult to acquire land which is nearer to the city area. Fine. Then physical characteristics. So the physical characteristics of the site, like potential for flooding, then foundation stability, then groundwater intrusion, and the difficulty in preparing this site must be evaluated before selection of the final site, right? That is, if the site is nearer to the river, then the potential of flooding should be taken into consideration. That is, during the peak rainfall, the site should not get flooded with the help of river water, right? Then foundation stability. Talking about the foundation stability, the soil of the site should be adequate to withstand the pressure of the units of water treatment plant, right? And so that is one of the governing factor. Fine. Then groundwater intrusion. Talking about the groundwater intrusion, if the groundwater is at a very shallow depth from the surface of the earth, then the special techniques are required, or even special foundations are required in order to for the stability of the treatment plant units, right? So these are some of the physical characteristics, and other factors such as power supply, of course, because these plants will be requiring a lot of electricity in order to purify the water, right? Then waste disposal option is also one of the governing factor, because whatever the impurities will be removed from the water treatment plant needs to be disposed of safely. Fine. And public acceptance and security are some of the factors on which the treatment plant location is dependent. Okay, so this is all about the location of the treatment plant. Let us now start with another topic, that is the treatment train, right? So the method of treatment to be employed depends upon the nature of raw water constituents and the desired standards of water quality, right? Various unit operations are storage, pre-chlorination, aeration, rapid mixing, flocculation, sedimentation, slow sand filtration, rapid sand filtration, softening, post-chlorination, and demineralization, right? So the choice of any particular sequence or train of treatment units will depend not only on the quality of the raw water and the treated water desired, but also on the comparative economics of the alternative treatment steps applicable, right? So let us have a look at the each of these treatment trains. There are various cases for it. Let us have a look at it one by one. Okay, so for the case 1, you can see that in case of groundwater or surface water, I am talking about figure A and figure B. So talking about these two waters, that is groundwater and surface water, with storage which are well protected, where the water has turbidity less than 10 nephometric turbidity unit, that is 10 NTU, and there they are free from odor and color, then plain disinfection by chlorination is adopted before supply, right? That is for the first and the second figure, right? If they are well protected storage and if their turbidity is less than 10 NTU, then only plain disinfection, that is by chlorination, is done before the supply, right? Then Talking about the case 2, where groundwater contains excessive iron, dissolved carbon dioxide and odorous gases, aeration followed by flocculation, that is rapid and slow mixing, and sedimentation, rapid gravity or pressure filtration and disinfection may be necessary, right? So you can see the figure number 3, that is groundwater. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 and 10. So I had shown you the sequence, right? So 3 is aeration, rapid mixing, flocculation, right? So these are the some of the treatments. Talking about the case 3, so in case it contains only carbon dioxide or odorous gases, aeration followed by disinfection may be sufficient, right? And in surface waters with turbidities not exceeding 50 NTU and where sufficient area is available, plain sedimentation followed by slow sand filtration and disinfection are practiced. Okay, so next is conventional treatment including pre-chlorination, aeration, flocculation, rapid and slow mixing and sedimentation, then rapid gravity filtration and post-chlorination are adopted for highly polluted surface waters laden with algae and other microorganisms. Okay, so if the water that is obtained from the surface sources like river or lakes or ponds, right, and if they are highly polluted or it is laden with algae or microorganisms, then in that case you need to undergo treatments like pre-chlorination, aeration, flocculation, sedimentation, as well as filtration and chlorination. Okay, so look at the figure E, right? Then talking about the figure F, right? So sometimes unconventional flow sheets may be adopted for water of low turbidity. That is when the turbidity of water is in between 10 to 15 nephelometric turbidity unit and containing low concentration of suspended matters, that is less than say 50 milligrams per liter. Then such raw waters are applied to rapid sand filters with alum addition, which may or may not be accompanied by slow mixing for a short period of time, right? For example, 10 minutes. Okay, then talking about case 6, that is the figure G, slow sand filters can also be used to polish the filtrate from rapid sand filtration plant, and water with excessive hardness needs softening as shown in figure G, right? And for the removal of dissolved solids, demineralization by ion exchange method, it is one of the methods that is known as ion exchange method, right? So it is very popular method for removal of minerals, right? They form a part of domestic or industrial waste water, industrial water treatment units, right? So I hope this treatment train is clear in your mind. So that's all for these topics. We will be seeing some new topics in the next video.